Welcome to The Drive with your automotive experts and hosts, Lauren and Karl Brauer. Each week we dive into breaking car news, share our latest vehicle reviews, and bring you up to speed on what's happening in the automotive world. Buckle up, it's time to hit the road with us. This is The Drive.
Well, welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. I'm Karl Brauer, one of your co-hosts. Lauren is with me, our lovely co-host that keeps this show going every week. And we have the experience to keep this show going every week because we did it for years with yet a third radio expert. And we've actually got him on the show too. We've dragged him out of the back seat where he's been sleeping the last couple of weeks and woke him up. And Alan Taylor of The Drive, formerly with Alan Taylor, is back on The Drive right now with us. Alan, welcome to the show.
What is this? Who are you having on my show? My old show. I know it's your show now, but Mike Harley? What the? What am I going to do?
It's gone to the dogs. It's gone to the dogs. What can I say, Alan? It's all gone sideways, and its shiny side is no longer up. But Lauren and I are doing our best.
Yeah, right. No, I know. Listen, you guys are doing a great job. Thank you for keeping the legacy of automotive enthusiast radio alive. I'm 65. I should retire at 65, as my wife told me anyway.
No, what's that word mean? Could you put that in a sentence? I don't know what that means.
First of all, it means you stop doing what you were doing for years and start some entirely new thing, and you work twice as hard because you don't know what you're doing anymore. So
interesting. I don't want to be a greeter at Walmart. That's not on my schedule. So I will continue doing the radio show with Karl Brauer in honor of you, Alan Taylor.
That's good. Well, I bought a bunch of buildings and I'm doing a lot of commercial real estate. And it's fun. It's fun because I have boys. I have 3 sons and a daughter and a son-in-law, and everybody's in the trades. And so I'm having fun with it. But I got something to share with you guys. You've probably never seen this. I'm going to show it on the camera. This is my original radio show. It was called Auto Talk, this show. And you can tell the guy with the black hair, that's me. I don't have black hair anymore. But I started in 92 doing a call-in talk show. And I had a mechanic friend of mine named Dave. And we were helping people with just like Click and Clack, the Tappet brothers. We were helping people with the car problems. And he was a genius, like you guys. I was just the guy that made fun of everything. And, here it is 33 years later, this show in its iteration is still on. It's been Auto Talk. It's been Motor Trend Radio. It's been Car and Drive Radio. In the last, I don't know, what is it, a decade or whatever, 12 years, it's been The Drive. We unaffiliated from the magazine so we could honestly say exactly what needed to be said and not be filtered. Because, look at the world. What do you trust anymore, right?
Right.
You look at somebody right in the eye and you want to trust a person that you can see. So my slogan was always brands you trusted, people you loved. And that's what it was. That's why we had great sponsors like Shell and Craftsman Tools and, lots of great Edelbrock and so many over the years, McGuire's Car Care Products. And so I know SEMA's coming up, the Specialty Equipment Market Association trade show. And I think all of us are going to be there. I'm going. I'm not going to stay home. You kidding me? You guys are. You may be putting me in the back seat, but I'm going to be out there doing my thing.
Good. We want to see you there. It'll be fun. I've been going to the SEMA show, Specialty Equipment Manufacturing Show, since 1984.
Well, when you were on your dad's back, piggyback, because you were a little girl.
I don't know. I was not that small. But yes, I went there for a company called Stainless Steel Brakes, which is no longer with us. And then Classic Tube, which is my husband's company and my company. I'm just barely there. I'm actually in their studio right now. It's been, we had to go there to get the business started. And that was a business to business type of communication. And things have changed there a lot. Now it's a lot of cars, a lot of hop-up parts. They've opened up the West Hall. So we have a lot to cover in a couple days because then Karl and I are going off to drive a Hyundai Palisade, and we'll be covering all of that on the show as well. And then, of course, there's a lot of news going on in the automotive world. And I know, Karl, you said there was a hot story, pardon the pun.
Yeah, I think you picked the right word, Lauren. Aluminum is a very exciting component that was added to the Ford F-150 I think it was about 10 years ago now, to lighten the vehicle up, and it was very effective. Unfortunately, aluminum melts if it catches fire, and if an aluminum plant that makes the aluminum for Ford F-150s catches fire, it really slows down production of the vehicle. And apparently that happened not too far from you up there in the upstate New York, apparently.
Yes. That was upstate New York. The plant caught fire. Anytime anything catches fire, fire and metal are not friends. And that leads to a lot of expenses, a lot of losses. And for Ford, it looks like they get to add on to their electric vehicle losses by all the beds that are on the F-150s are aluminum. And there's going to be a shortage of F-150s, and that's going to impact consumers.
Yeah, they're saying the cost.
Truck, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the best-selling vehicle, best-selling truck, and apparently it's going to cost Ford approximately $1 billion to fix this. So, or to repair and replace everything they're getting out of that plant and get that production back in line. So it's a tough loss for them. I know they've got plenty of struggles, as you said, Lauren. They've already had to, kind of walk away from the electric vehicle thing, like a lot of brands. But this is just our first segment. We're going to do a couple more with Alan in the back seat. Thank you for joining us again, Alan. And we will be right back with The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
Welcome back to The Drive with Lauren and Karl. This segment is brought to you by Classic Tube. If you're restoring a car, make sure to check out Classic Tube for brake, fuel, and transmission lines. We are bent on perfection. We have everything in stock in stainless, steel, and we can even sell you some bulk tubing for your street rod. Okay, so we have some interesting subject coming up from General Motors after they ended the production of the Chevy Bolt. They're bringing it back. And this is interesting considering electric vehicles no longer have that tax credit. Alan, what's your thoughts? I mean, you've driven the Bolt and the Volt. I think they should have brought the Volt back. What's your thoughts on the 2027 Chevrolet Bolt?
Well, as you know, I'm in the back seat. I don't get to see everything. And normally I'm snoring and sucking my thumb like an old man should. But I liked the Volt with a V. And I think they made a big mistake ever getting rid of that vehicle. And, I mean, part of my retirement decision was because I felt like the auto industry about a year ago, you guys remember when I started going, I'm retiring. This is so stupid. All these electric cars and these mandates. And then, Trump got back in office and get rid of all those stupid mandates. Let people buy what they want. And I thought, I'm going to be too old for it to ever come back around. But I'm amazed how fast things are coming back around. I mean, the fact that they're bringing back things like the Bolt now, which you're right. I'm with you, Lauren. It should have been called the Volt. But it's like Ford when they brought the Taurus back. They should have left it dead. But anyway, I haven't even seen it yet. You tell me about it. What's it going to look like? What's it going to be?
Apparently, it's going to be basically the same car as it was. It's going to be basically the same bodywork. And that's the thing is they're pricing this at $29,990. And that might sound familiar because that's what the new Leaf is going to be priced. So essentially, they now know that the psychological impact of no incentive, $7,500 incentive, means just the first number on the base price and all those billboard ads and ads on the side rail on your internet page has to start with a 2. So because they don't have $7,500, they can rip off the MSRP of these vehicles. And also because they're bringing back an old existing vehicle, well, they don't have to spend as much to bring it back. So they've updated it. It's got a few more miles. It's got a new type of battery technology. I think it's up to 255 mile range from like 245, 247. And it does have the Tesla. I consider it the Tesla. It's the North American Charging Standard, or NACS, NACS standard plug that Tesla's used all the time. And most electric cars are moving to. The Bolt the new, quote unquote new Bolt will have that too. And it'll charge twice as fast at 150 kilowatts as the quote unquote old one that looked very similar. So, kudos to GM for realizing they probably should never canceled the Bolt. I mean, if Tesla can sell the same car for 15 years, then, Chevrolet hadn't only sold that original Bolt for about 7 or 8, I think, before they killed it. And here it comes again, same basic car. But that's what we're going to see in the showrooms soon from Chevy.
Well, they claim they're going to have a higher range, lower price vehicle coming in the $27,000 range. We'll see for 2028. But I think one of the big mistakes, and I've had this conversation with Mark Royce, who's a big player there at General Motors, where I said, which is it? Are you going electric or are you going gas? And he sends me a message, get over it. Okay, well, I'm bringing this out to everybody. The truth is, if they had the Volt, They were the first ones truly to market with a hybrid that was gas and electric, and it worked. It may have not had a big gas tank, but the fact was people liked it. So you could get the best of both worlds. And they need to come back with hybrids. Now, according to people I know with our product planners, they're going to be coming back with hybrids, but we're not going to see it until 2027 or 28. But they better get on it, and they could reuse that name, the Volt. It has brand value. And I think they'll sell a lot of hybrids. But going one way or the other, I'm sorry. I know Mark Royce really well, but I'm going to tell you that's probably not the best option. Let consumers pick what they want, and then you build what consumers want.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's a joke about GM building the perfect car, and when they finally get there, they kill it. And I hate that joke. You know why I hate that joke? Because it keeps being true. I hate the fact that I can keep making that joke, okay? And the Volt, when it first came out, it was the first plug-in hybrid that you could get a certain amount of pure electric range, and then you had an internal combustion engine. Yeah, they were ahead of the game on that. And then they came out with the second gen, and it looked good. And it was like, okay, now this car looks cool, and it's got a cutting-edge technology that is starting to become very popular. They had control of the market. They were ahead. They could have kept control of it. They could have kept building that market. And everyone I knew who owned a Volt loved it. Everyone I knew. They would build a thing with gas. And I think if they were smart, they'd put some of that gas stabilizer in there, because the gas could last like 6 months. And then they drive
But
it
not
around
that
as an
Cadillac.
EV.
That Cadillac was not good. That was a
Well, that
Volt
was a
with a tuxedo. And that did not so well. I have a friend who bought one. Was it XLR? Is that what it was called?
No, that was the Corvette. I always forget the name too. It was because the XLR was the Corvette Cadillac, but it was something like that, ELS or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
it was basically a Volt in a tuxedo.
yeah, and it was a cool car, but
sell.
it cost too much. They thought they could price it like Tesla, and it didn't work. All right, well, we're going to jump out for another break here, but we are going to be right back with both Lauren and Karl and Alan. So get right back with us. See us after the break. All right, we are back on the drive with Lauren and Karl and Alan, at least this segment. And this segment is brought to you by iSeeCars.com. I happen to be the executive analyst at iSeeCars.com. I'm quite familiar with this brand, and they are an excellent source, not only of vehicle listings across the country, but also consumer guidance based on a massive amount of data that I get to help them crunch and look for important items like longest lasting cars and other topics to help consumers find not just the best deal on a car, but the right car that they should be buying at any given moment. All right. So speaking of cars and making people buy them or trying to get people to buy them, this next topic, Lauren, that we're going to talk about was GM and Ford both had kind of preloaded a bunch of purchases of electric vehicles before the incentive ended on September 30th. They wanted to kind of backfill a whole bunch of electric cars and put those orders in before the September 30th deadline so they could get the $7,500 incentive included in the car's total cost, and then still be able to apply it to consumers. So post
You mean they were gaming the system? They were trying to trick the system?
Insider trading.
GM? No.
Gaming's an ugly word, but they were certainly trying to sell more electric cars than was going to naturally be sold before September 30th, and then have that $7,500 credit in their back pocket to continue to allow them to offer leases at a $7,500 cheaper rate for people after September 30th. And apparently some Republican senators got wind of this, and they literally said, "You're bilking the U.S. taxpayer. This was not market driven. This was driven by a business incentive and a business interest versus natural demand from the market. And you're trying to extend and take more of that $7,500 credit than otherwise would have existed in normal supply demand circumstances." That was the senator's opinion. I'm probably not going to argue with the senators right now, but I would be happy to hear both Alan and Lauren. Alan, you start. What do you think?
You want me to start? It's gaming, politicking. It's kind of sad, but it shows where we're at. And because here's the problem. They have been squeezed so hard by this stupid electric car thing that the Biden administration put down on them. They weren't making any money. Look at Ford. You were talking about the fire, the aluminum plant, and they're losing money. They were losing money on every car. What was it, Lauren? You said like
$40,000 per Lightning truck.
What? Who could stay in business doing that? So do you blame them for trying to get in a lot of that money while they still can? I don't, but it's just sad. It's a sad state of affairs of where we are. Anyway, Lauren, what do you think?
I think all the car manufacturers are hurting. Every single one of them. We've had this conversation with all of our past guests, including yourself. And we're seeing the industry itself struggling. And it's struggling because when the government puts their finger or their thumb heavily on the scale, they're forcing car manufacturers
Wait a
to build
minute.
product that people
I
don't
think
want.
the thumb went right up the rear end is what happened there.
Well, you know
I agree.
What's interesting, guys, is when you look at Europe, because all of what we're doing here and what we've unwound over the past about 9 months is even more aggressive in Europe. And how do the European automakers look? They're in even worse shape than the domestic automakers.
Yeah.
So if you wanted a preview of what this kind of policy has, this concept of we're going to sell these products to people, there may not be demand. The business case may mean losing money on every one of them, but we're going to make sure that these are the products that we produce regardless. If that's what the automakers are doing because they've been told to and they've been given marching orders, and I think Lauren, you and I think you too, Alan, we have had this discussion, maybe the automakers should have pushed back a little bit. Maybe as a business,
that's bad lobbyists. Bad lobbyists.
Yeah. If you're a big business in this country and you're important to this country and you employ a lot of people and you have a fair amount of economic sway,
put your foot down.
Yeah, maybe you don't roll over and say, yes, Mr. President and politicians in policies. Maybe you look at them and say, we're not going to do things that are going to bankrupt us. You guys already had to bail us out once, 2 of the 3 of us out once in the past 18 years. We don't need to do that again. So if you're going to make us do this, we're going to all lose money and you're going to have to bail us out again. And I don't think anyone wants to do that. That was the reality. Now, a lot of people would say, well, there's other reality. We got to go EV for all these other various reasons. It's like, well, what's that? The immovable force and the irresistible force and the immovable object. We had things that were going to collide here, and they're colliding in Europe, and the European automakers are in big trouble.
This is why having a businessman as the chief executive of our country is important. Most of these politicians have never been entrepreneurs, business people, written a check to an employee. They've never had to deal with that stuff. They've always been on, I can't say any of these words on radio, but you know what I'm saying, on the dole, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
And having entrepreneurs as leaders of politics is so important. And look what our country right now is on the mend. We were goners, you guys. We were goners. If Trump didn't get back in office, and look what he just did. Now, did you hear that well, we already know they're not going to give him the Nobel Peace Prize. They're giving it to somebody else. And this guy brought peace to us with the Hamas and all the different, don't get me going. It's time for me to get out of the back seat.
You're right, Alan. I'm in agreement. If you have never signed the front of a paycheck, then you don't really know what it's like to run a business. And someone who has my entire life signed the front and the back of a paycheck, they really need to start looking at the costs. And anytime you take money from someone else, they own you. And that's exactly what happened. Is the government got their fingers into business, and it's wrecked the UK car business, and it's not helping the US car business at all.
All right. Well, I know you guys got to take a break, and I gotta go. You guys are gonna have to do the rest of the show without me. You're doing a great job on the show. Thank you. I do have a new radio show starting. It's called The Sloth. So come join me on The Sloth, where I'll be laying up in a tree somewhere. Anyway, I'm joking. Keep up the good work, guys. Thanks for letting me hang with you for a little bit.
Please come back and join us again.
I will.
Yes, we want you back on again, and we will all be right back, or at least 2 of the 3 of us, on The Drive with Lauren and Karl.
We are back with The Drive. I'm Lauren Fix with Karl Brauer, and this segment is brought to you by Car Coach Reports. If you're looking for the real news on what's going on with a little bit of sass, check out Car Coach Reports. We're going to give you some information you're not going to get anywhere else. And if you're looking for car reviews from Lauren Fix, me, just check out Car Smarts on YouTube, and you'll find all the car reviews right there. All right, Karl, there's a lot of news going on from Stellantis, which is Jeep, and they have needed to make some serious change. So we have just heard that the Jeep Grand Wagoneer is no longer going to be called the Grand Wagoneer. It's just going to be Jeep Grand Wagoneer, which is probably a smart idea. So they're updating the name, so no longer just Wagoneer, which I don't know what the mindset was at, but they're going to be getting away from the electric and going to gasoline-powered vehicles.
Right. And I find it interesting on multiple levels here. Everything from the fact that they're dropping the Wagoneer. Remember, first I remember thinking it was weird that there was a Wagoneer and a Grand Wagoneer. And if you spent all the money for the top version of the Wagoneer, it was still pretty damn expensive. But then the Grand Wagoneer had a few features you couldn't get on the Wagoneer because it was considered the Grand Wagoneer. So it seemed a little weird / redundant that they had a Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer. So now there is no Wagoneer. We're back to just a Grand Wagoneer as the model that's available. And that's, in case people don't know, this is their ginormous, like biggest Jeep you can buy. Like it makes, you know, a Suburban look, well, not small, but it makes it look basically Suburban sized, big 3-row vehicle. And it's not inexpensive. It was expensive in the base Wagoneer, which was the lower trim version. But Lauren, we've been seeing this for years, since COVID, really. All the base models, all the lower price models, right? We've lost all the sub like $25,000 cars, as we were talking on with Anton a couple shows ago about how we've lost all the inexpensive cars, but we've also lost the inexpensive versions of the cars because, well, the car companies realized, hey, we can sell fewer models at a higher profit per model, as opposed to trying to sell more models. They didn't learn that until there was the production restriction due to COVID, and COVID's production restriction drove up the price of everything. And suddenly they realized, wow, we can make a lot of money per vehicle as opposed to producing more vehicles and having lower profit. So all that to say, it's a Grand Wagoneer only. The lower cost Wagoneer, like so many other lower cost versions of vehicles, is now gone for 2026. This is what's called their mid-cycle refresh. But the other big news, we were just talking about the Volt and how that was a first version of this range extender, electric vehicle, plug-in hybrid, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And here comes a range extending EV from Jeep in the form of this Grand Wagoneer. First time ever, you can get a 96 kilowatt hour battery pack and a 3.6 liter V6 engine that is only there to make sure that that motor is properly powered. And if the battery pack runs out, the 130 kilowatt generator powered by the V6 engine keeps powering the electric motor. It's a bit convoluted, and you and I both talked about how many different versions of the drivetrain are going into a single car and how that can maybe be tricky long term if things start breaking. But anyways, you can now get a range extended version, which means there's going to be, and they didn't say, they said the total miles, charged battery, full tank, 500. They have not yet released how far it'll go on pure electricity, but it is an awfully big, heavy vehicle. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of miles.
I have other concerns. I have a lot of other concerns. Okay.
Let's hear them.
Okay, so I have a friend who is a master tech. We will get him on. He's a Golden Wrench Award winner. His name is Greg Damon. He used to run the KMOX radio show. It is now our show on KMOX. So we're going to get him on our show. So if you're listening in St. Louis, Greg is not far away. We will get him on our show as a guest. He has told me, and we are longtime friends, that one of the worst things that people are buying is these range extenders, because what ends up happening, and I know that the manufacturer's going to be really mad at me for saying this. They'll be mad at you, Karl. They'll be mad at me. And it's because if you've got a problem down the road and you're now making this vehicle very heavy, so you've got a gasoline powered engine, you've added a battery, and now you're going to put a generator on board to charge that battery. You've not just made it heavier, it wears out tires prematurely. And you as the consumer will be buying tires on an annual basis, which my daughter actually had a Jaguar F-Pace that was a hybrid like that. And then it only was a year old, and she took it to the dealer because it said it needed new brake pads. And she's like, what are you talking about? It's a brand new car. So she ended up selling the vehicle because it wore out the tires and the brake pads. And the service manager told her, yeah, he goes, that's really normal. Tires and brake pads every single year. Consumers are not going to stand for that. That may be fine if you're leasing a car, but every year you're going to tell someone you got to bring that in for service for tires and brakes. That gets expensive. Now, what Greg Damon has told me is the bigger problem is you own the vehicle down the road. You've taken care of, you don't care about the tires and brakes. You're going to invest that money into it because you love this vehicle. The problem is one of those propulsions doesn't work. The bill is twice as expensive, and it's much more difficult for mechanics to do the work because they have to actually decide, okay, now it's not the gas-powered motor. That's running great because Stellantis makes great engines. It's the battery that has to be replaced, or it's the generator, or the transition between that doesn't work. The work on it from a mechanic standpoint is excessively expensive. And these are things that are never discussed.
No, you're right. And it's interesting how many of these newer technologies, they give you better fuel efficiency. They make the people writing the regulations about CO2 and CAFE happy. But what else do they do? what everything you just said, it reminds me, it'd be interesting to talk to your friend about this. Start, stop. Lauren, what's
really
the worst,
bad for the system.
what's
Really
the
bad.
worst, what's the worst time frame in an engine's life?
Starting.
When it first 20, 30 seconds when you start it up, let's put a system in that makes it constantly start and stop and start and stop. That shouldn't have a downside, should it? It was
has
amazingly
a huge
stupid.
downside.
Yeah.
It has a huge downside. And that's why the EPA under Lee Zeldin, they removed that mandate, but car manufacturers still have not removed it. I mean, I'm test driving a Genesis G80 right now. First thing I do is to get in the car is I shut it off. I hate it. And you only save about a tablespoon, literally a tablespoon of fuel. And that was all because of EPA requirements. And those CAFE standards are gone. Those EPA requirements are gone. And I have called every single brand, and they still say they're going to put it in until they get that in writing.
Yeah.
Interesting. And you pay the bill.
Well, exactly. And like you said, they're looking for every little thing. They're trying so hard because these CAFE requirements were getting so high so rapidly. They're outpacing the technology that could be met in a realistic way. So they're looking for every single thing, and that includes the teaspoon of gas that they get. Like what I've heard is it's good for 1 mpg. If you've got a vehicle that's got a mixed mpg of 30 and you put on start stop on the EPA test cycle, it'll get 31. And so you're going to destroy the engine, wear it out, make it go through the worst time of its existence repeatedly for 1 mpg. But that's what they had to do. So, all right, we're going to take
another break here.
The
wear and tear goes to you, the consumer. That's the problem. So if you have start stop, shut it off. It's also for safety standpoints.
And it shows up after the warranty period. That wear is not going to probably happen in the first 3 years, 36,000 miles. So that's the worst part. All right, we're going to take a break, and we will be right back with more The Drive with Lauren and Karl. See you soon. All right, we are back on The Drive with Lauren and Karl, and we were just talking about the Jeep Grand Wagoneer and the lack of the Jeep Wagoneer. It is now gone. But we also want to talk about, well, actually, before we start talking about anything, I want to make sure everyone knows that this segment was brought to you by Karl Brauer Cars. That is, believe it or not, my video channel. If it sounds familiar, that's my video channel on YouTube. And I try to do at least 2 to 3 videos a week on various new cars, ranging from, Nissan Leafs to Lamborghini Revoltos. And both those are going to be on the channel if you go look at it, and pretty much everything in between. All right, so let's talk about Jeep real quick, because I wanted to touch on the fact that the Grand Cherokee is also getting a bit of a change. We already talked about the Grand Wagoneer and the fact the Wagoneer is gone, and it's now going to have a range extender. What's going on with the Grand Cherokee, which is a smaller, but still available with a 3-row extended wheelbase one? What's going on with that for 26? Well, Jeep is introducing a smaller engine. So they're not doing the range extended technology, but they are introducing a 2-liter Hurricane Turbo 4 engine. And I'm looking at the notes here, 324 horsepower, 332 pound-feet of torque. They're claiming it's going to have the best-in-class range, if you fill it up, 504 miles, and the best-in-class horsepower per liter at 162 horsepower per liter. That's a lot of horsepower. I remember when we were starting to hit 100 horsepower per liter, and everyone was pretty happy and impressed. 162 horsepower per liter out of this little 2-liter engine, and it's got a 6,200-pound tow capacity.
That's good. That's really
amazing.
Good.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this goes to the technology and what technology can do. Now, we certainly don't want to see this engine overstressed, and that's kind of always the question, is that when you make these little engines, how long can they go? I'd have less faith, but the truth is engineering keeps getting better, the quality of the metal, the quality of the assembly. So I'm not going to write this engine off as like, oh, there's no way this thing is going to get to 100,000 miles. Hopefully it'll have just the kind of longevity and staying power that the larger engines have had for a long time. But, Lauren, cars are getting expensive now, and they haven't released the prices yet on either of these Jeeps, but they have given us all that information. Right. Yeah. They don't want to talk about price because price has gotten so high. In fact, I feel like you can't get a good deal on a car anymore, new or used. But if you want a good deal, you certainly have to do a lot of research, or maybe you don't. You were telling me off air that there's a way to do that research that leverages these 2 letters we've been hearing for the last few years over and over again, AI.
AI has actually been a friend for Gen Z. So what Gen Z is doing, real smart. These are very savvy tech people. And as we've seen, ChatGPT or Grok, there's a bunch of other ones out there. You find your favorite AI platform, and the kids are getting really smart. This started to my attention when my girlfriend said my daughter's looking for a new car. Her Volvo had like 200,000 miles on it. It was kind of done. And she had used it to go back and forth to college. And I said, I was giving her some my opinions. And she says, all right, I'll just go on ChatGPT and check. And I thought, that's interesting. So what she did is she's looking for a Honda Civic. So she went into Honda. She said, I'm looking for a Honda Civic in this area where she lives. And I don't want to pay more than this. Where can I go? And it listed all the dealers, their inventory. It was everything, because it takes everything off the internet. So I did some further research, and I'm finding that a lot of people are using it to get the best deal, find a car that fits their needs, what might meet their car payment. Because when you walk into a dealership, and I used to be a dealer trainer for many, many years. In other words, we train the dealers how to sell. It should be, Karl, what are you looking for? What does your family need? And then you would say, oh, well, we're looking for a 3-row SUV and the Jeep Cherokee, right? No, now you're getting some salespeople that are still old school saying, well, how much can you afford a month? Are you leasing or buying? Well, those are the questions you never want to answer. So what you can do is all your research online through AI, and watch Karl's videos on Karl Brauer Cars and mine at Car Smarts, and do your research. I see cars, a bunch of places. Get your information, walk in armed with that. So what Gen Z is doing is, once they've made the deal, and the salespeople either love it and get it and think you're smart, or they hate it. And then they get the paperwork from the dealer, whether it's a used car lot, it's a new dealer, whether you're buying, you're leasing, you're buying something used, and they take a picture of the documents, the financial documents, and they send it to ChatGPT, and they go, where are the traps? And they're seeing high interest rates, high overage fees on leases, tons of doc fees. Those document fees can be crazy expensive, into the thousands of dollars. And it shouldn't be. And so that allows them to negotiate, and salespeople love it or they hate it. Now, a good dealer will say, that is great that you did the research. We want to work with you. We understand maybe you did your negotiation online, but the future will bring that ChatGPT will negotiate with the dealer's AI, and you walk in and pick up your vehicle. How about that for the future? Very interesting.
Because what we need AI taking more people's jobs away. I mean, that's the scary thing is, there's a lot of people out there who help people buy cars and help make sure they get good deals. I know brokers who specialize in that, like that's their thing. And if you've got that kind of ability, if you can go to one of these large learning models, as they're called, these LLMs, these chat GPTs or Gemini, and ask it, what's the best deal? Here's all the listings. Now AI, wade through them, and you tell me what's the best deal here, instead of me having to go scrolling up and down here. You're going to have a lot of people who are finding cars pretty quickly and easily. And I love the idea that once you're in the dealer, now you're not just found the car, you know what price to pay for the car. And I remember when Edmunds, when I was there back in the Paleolithic era, as I like to say, but when that company started, they had all the invoice pricing. And so that was like big deal back then. Nobody was supposed to know the invoice price except the dealer. And all of a sudden, all the consumers knew it because they could go to sites like Edmunds. And then they started negotiating not from the MSRP, but from the invoice. And the dealers, most of them were very mad. But it was also cool to see which dealers understood technology and embraced it and said, look, I have to acknowledge that the world's changing, and I can be an old stick in the mud and fight it and scream and yell and be mad at the consumers who come in with that kind of info. Or I can say, great, you know what it cost to me to buy this car. That's what the invoice is. Don't forget, I got to keep the lights on. I got to pay my salespeople. I got to pay rent. I got to pay heat. So I have to be allowed a certain amount of percentage thing too. These people who said, I want to pay dime over invoice. That means technically you're not making any money as the dealer. So the dealers were smart to acknowledge it and then work with the consumer versus scream and yell at them, which some did.
Still do your research. Don't trust ChatGPT. Always smart to do that. And when you do, you'll get your best deal. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break, put it into neutral for just a second. So stay right with us. Welcome back to the show. I'm Lauren Fix, and I'm with Karl Brauer, and you are listening to The Drive. Now, we're always driving different cars. Like this week, I've got a Genesis G80. I mean, every week it's a different one or two cars. And since we're both North American Car and Truck of the Year jurors and World Car of the Year jurors, Karl, you and I get to drive a lot of vehicles, and we have a lot to drive in the very near future. We've got the Noctoy Drive, which is the North American Car and Truck of the Year jury, will be there. We'll get a whole bunch of different jurors to comment on our show. And we have in the LA Auto Show, we'll be driving all of the World Car of the Year jury cars. There's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, we have friends from Mexico that bring up the cars that we never get to see. So it's going to be a really busy next 2 months.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's really, a unique position to be in for people like us to not only go to the events that the manufacturers hold because they want them on our own media, like Car Coach Reports or Karl Brauer Cars on our own channels, but also because we're going to be voting on the cars that are going to win North American or World Car. And the result is we drive a lot. So
Yeah,
in that spirit, I think, first of all, just you're going to hear that a lot on this show, which will be neat. You're going to hear about a lot of different cars on a regular basis that we'll be talking about that we've experienced, and hopefully can give you some insight and help you decide if it's a car for you. If you've got some spare change, a lot of spare change, the car I drove recently, it was the Aston Martin DBX S. Now, the Aston Martin DBX came out several years ago. It was the first SUV that had Aston Martin badges on it. And I was very impressed with it right off the bat, between its handling.
Great looking, good looking car.
Styling, the handling, the power, the sound, and of course the interior quality and everything. So I was very impressed with it from the start, and they keep making it better. They keep making newer versions. And last year, the top version was the DBX 707, and it came from horsepower. Although you always have to remember, you know this, Lauren, the European horsepower numbers are always higher. I think that car only made like 697 by the American standards. Yeah, by the American standards, but it made 707 in Europe. So they came out now with the DBX S for 2026. It's got 20 more horsepower, 717 horsepower. And they also made it lighter. And they got, for the first time ever, a carbon fiber roof option that loses 40 pounds. Yeah, it's a 40-pound drop, and it's a 40-pound drop from the roof. What does that mean? Lower center of gravity. So they did some tweaking to the suspension. I drove it. I was blown away, literally. I'm driving it aggressively on twisty roads in the Central Valley up north of Santa Barbara. And I'm just like, a car this size and this weight, and it weighs less than most of the other SUVs too, but it still weighs like 4,800 pounds. Most of them weigh over 5, well over 5. 4,800 pounds, should not go around corners like this, but it does. So it was an extremely fun and impressive car to drive. I really enjoyed it. And I think the starting price.
Lots of competitors in that class. Lots of competitors.
You got Urus.
The Urus. I love the Urus. Cayenne for sure. Yeah. There's a lot
Bentley
of stuff.
Bentayga. There's so many cars to choose from if you're going to spend over $200,000 on an SUV and get these what are called super luxury SUVs. But it's a fabulous car. I think it's probably my favorite one in that category, all things taken in, although I do like the Urus a lot too, the Lamborghini Urus that I drove a couple months ago. Very fun and cool looking. So I wanted to just make sure everyone knows that DBX S, it's worth looking at if you can afford it. Starting price, like around 250, and I think the way mine was equipped, it was 350,000.
That's a house. That's a
That's a house for a lot of people. So that's
crazy.
And speaking of like kind of crazy adventures and all, driving that car was fun. But one of the other adventures that we've both been on for over 20 years, I think you said over almost 40 years, you went in the 80s.
Yeah.
The SEMA show, which I think is kind of the goofiest name, SEMA. What SEMA? What the heck?
Specialty Trade Association. Yeah.
Yeah. That SEMA means Specialty Equipment Market Association, but it's essentially the aftermarket show. I think it'd be much better if they just called it like the Automotive Aftermarket Show is what it should be called, the AAS or something like that. But that's what it is. So wheels, and just people always joke and say it's the wheels and stereo show, because guess what? One of the most popular things to mod on your car are wheels and audio systems, but it's everything: exhaust, intake, bodywork, and then of course manufacturers will do debuts there. But I've been going forever. We're going to go this year. If there's people who are listening and they're out there, we'd love to see you. Come say hi. We might have a booth set up.
If you see us, say, hey, Lauren, hey, Karl, because Alan's going to be with us too. And so it'll be fun. You'll definitely spot us.
Yeah. And what's some of your adventures on that show, Lauren? What have you done there?
Oh my gosh. I went when Excalibur first opened, the one that looks like a castle on the strip. And I actually got an ear infection on the flight in. And so I walked the whole show. I just newly married and I actually had to go to UVLA, which is the University of Las Vegas, I think is whatever the initials are. And they told me I couldn't go home. So after everybody left, I had to stay an extra week because I was on ear infection medicine and they wouldn't let me fly home. So it was kind of fun. It's one of those things that you learn your lesson. You bring nasal spray with you, but it is a great show. It's a lot of fun, and it's open to consumers on Friday. Actually, I think they opened the show floor at SEMA on Thursdays for one, but Friday they have a huge event at night with celebrities and bands and everything, and it's absolutely worth your time. So we're going to talk more about the SEMA show. We'll be live from the SEMA show, but I want to thank Alan for joining us. this time is really great. And we'll be with you every Saturday and Sunday. You can listen to us on YouTube at The Drive Car Show. Also follow us on social media. Don't forget to follow Karl Brauer Cars. And we'll be back next week with some more exciting guests and, of course, some great subject matter that'll help you be an expert in the car world.
You've been listening to The Drive, your trusted source for the latest car news, expert reviews, and real insights into the automotive world. Thanks for riding along with us today. You can check out the entire archive of every episode on our YouTube channel, The Drive with Lauren and Karl. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and join the conversation by leaving your comments. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the ride, and we'll see you right back here on The Drive.